What is Formula One going to look like in the future? That is the question that the FOM, FIA, teams and future engine suppliers are currently dealing with. The changes will be implemented in phases. In 2022, the sporting and technological regulations will be overhauled, after which it will be time for new engine regulations in 2025. These new regulations are intended to make the sport more attractive to new engine suppliers in the future. But how do you want to do that? Well, we'll explain all of that right to you here in this GPFans F1 Special. Formula One currently has 4 different engine suppliers: Mercedes, Renault, Ferrari and Honda. The latter will leave the sport at the end of this season, after which the intellectual property will be taken over by Red Bull powertrains. At the moment, it is not at all interesting for car manufacturers to enter the sport as an engine supplier in Formula One. The current generation of power sources is very complicated and expensive to develop. In addition, new engine regulations are planned for 2025, as we said earlier, which means that a new engine supplier would hardly be able to recoup those investments. The chance that a new engine supplier will come before 2025, therefore, is, well, completely nothing. However, there is going to be a freezing of engine regulations. Red Bull Racing has ensured that the engine regulations will be frozen from 2022. The team had planned to take over the Honda power unit, but knew it would not be able to develop the engine on its own in the short term. The other teams agreed to their proposal after much deliberation, and thus the engines will remain unchanged from next year. At the moment, it is already the case that the engine manufacturers are no longer allowed to implement performance updates. Now, engines may only be tinkered with if there are updates in the field of safety or durability of the engine. Updates where the purpose is to increase speed are strictly prohibited. As mentioned, it is the intention that from 2025 or at the latest 2026, a completely new engine will be introduced. This is currently being discussed by a lot of people in the FIA, in Formula One, and of course current and potential engine suppliers. During these meetings, all parties are given the opportunity to communicate their wishes of what they want from the new engines. They also listen carefully to the wishes of the potential suppliers. After all, the big question is, how can you motivate them to also become an engine supplier? So what can we expect from these new engines? The vast majority of stakeholders agree that the new engines should be much simpler and cheaper. This is important not only for current engine suppliers, who logically want to minimize costs, but also for potential engine suppliers. By keeping costs as low as possible and not making the power sources too complicated, companies like Audi or BMW will be more inclined to step in and be involved in the world of Formula One. The barrier to entry is then much less high. As for the substantive regulations, there are currently quite a few discussions going on. Now, Red Bull Racing, for example, they want to stick to a hybrid combustion engine, but with biological fuels. However, Mercedes would rather slowly move towards electronic power sources. No surprise that those two are at loggerheads in these discussions. But what can we realistically expect? First of all, there are more and more noises that Formula One will use biological fuel and that the power source will contain more electronic components. In addition, various media reports are that the MGU-H is going to disappear, while the MGU-K is becoming much more powerful. What the actual power sources for the future will look like will probably be announced later this year, and when that happens, we will bring you all of the info once again here at GP Fans. So don't forget to hit the subscribe link down below to make sure you don't miss out on that and any of our content here on the channel.